Hello there. I am Pam Rigden, founder and Chief Magic Officer at NLP for Coaches. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I am going to share with you my definition, Pam's definition of NLP. And well, there's a story here. As NLP trainers, and I started my training in 2003, so over 20 years ago, as NLP trainers, explaining to somebody what NLP is frankly the thing that we dread more than anything else, because we inherited this rather clunky name for what we do, which is, of course, well, maybe not, of course, you may not know. Originally, NLP stood for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So you probably now have an understanding of what I'm talking about. What the hell does that mean? Well, I used to get out of that by saying to not students, but taxi drivers, for example, that it's a type of psychology, but that never really nailed it. And to be fair, it has taken me almost until now to actually be able to explain what this is and sum it up succinctly. And this is how I share what NLP is, Pam's definition, with my students. And I start with the L rather than the N. And the L, first and foremost, stands for listen. Listen very carefully. And this, of course, aligns with the ICF core competency of active listening, for those of you who are part of the ICF world. So it's listen. What are we listening for? We are listening for patterns. And that is the P. And I use the word patterns because it's so much less scary than programming, which can take us off down a rabbit hole of, that doesn't sound very good, which we don't want to go down. More on that in another video. So listen for the patterns in your client's language, in what they're telling you, in what they're saying. Listen for the patterns. Now, how do you know it's a pattern? Well, once, just the once is, they just said it the once. Twice could be a coincidence. 3 times, and you know it's a pattern. So we're listening to their language for the patterns. And as soon as we hear it 3 times, that's how we know. So this is about being a detective. This is your job as a coach, is to be a detective, because these are the clues. These patterns in your client's language are the clues that tell you what's happening in their heads. And that would be the N, the neuro. That's it. That's all this is about. And alongside listening, you can observe, you can watch as well your clients, because you may notice in their behavior, in their physiology, certain patterns as well. That's it in a nutshell. And that really is your job as a coach. It's like being a detective or a forensic scientist, because you are listening and looking, another L, for the clues. The clues are the patterns that tell us what's happening in our clients' heads. Now, of course, your language, your client's language, they are expressing their thoughts, we need to be mindful that these patterns may not be expressed. They could just be running in your client's heads. And the patterns, they can be patterns that help your clients and support them, or they could be patterns that hinder them, or habits in their behavior that hinder them. And those are the ones that, generally speaking, your clients will bring to you in coaching upfront, or you will hopefully very quickly detect that you can help them unravel and create more useful patterns. So this is our job, to listen. Now, what might you hear? Well, for example, you might hear a client say, remember, 3 times, variations on, well, I'm too old to go for that promotion or to start a new career. That is what we call a limiting belief. It is what your client believes and holds to be true, and it's not necessarily true. It's true for them. And at the moment, it is stopping them from moving forwards. So we've heard this, we've heard it 3 times. We honor that it is their truth. We never, ever, ever say, oh, that's just a story you're telling yourself, because for them right now, it's not a lie that they're telling themselves, it's their absolute truth. And we need to be utterly respectful of that and build rapport with them in order for them to create a more helpful truth. We do not challenge limiting beliefs by saying that's just a load of old rubbish that you're telling yourself. It's not true. That won't work. Okay. In fact, that will break any rapport that you had with that client and will pretty much mean that you are done, because trust will be gone. So what do we do instead? We gently challenge. Now, yes, you could elect to deploy what we know as limiting belief change processes, which are big processes with bells and whistles, and sometimes it involves getting up and walking around, and that's great. And for those of you who are coaching, particularly those of you who are coaching in an ICF style, having a conversation with a client, even if you knew how to do it, you don't necessarily want to switch to a huge belief change technique. Now, again, that can break rapport. So instead, what you can do is to take the essence of some of those big processes and bring that essence into your coaching conversation with the same impact and results. You can gently challenge with a question as simple as, is that a belief? And you can educate your client around what a belief is, that it's something that they hold to be true, and it's not necessarily true. And you can explain that we have all had beliefs at one point or another that we've absolutely cherished, and then we find out that actually they're not true. And I really don't want to disappoint anybody or be culturally inappropriate. The one that springs to mind immediately is Father Christmas. Most of us here, UK based, were brought up to believe in Father Christmas showing up every year on the 25th of December. It comes down the chimney. At some point, we all found out that's not true. So that belief is a belief that we used to believe in our past. And we now know is not true. It's no longer true for us. So our brain knows how to file away Father Christmas as a belief that we used to believe and we now know is no longer true. And when you share that with your clients, what you are doing is helping them to understand that what they can do is to file their belief that I'm too old for a promotion in the same way, so that I'm too old for a promotion becomes a belief that they used to believe and they now know is no longer true. And then you can perhaps ask them how they would like to honor that past belief. One of the big processes is actually called the Museum of Old Beliefs. And if you feel you can be a little bit directive in your coaching conversation, and I know not all ICF coaches, pure ICF coaches, feel that they can, if you feel you can, you might suggest or ask, what would it be like to place that old belief, that belief that you used to believe and you now know is no longer true, in the Museum of Old Beliefs? And when your client has done that, you can then ask them, and what is it? What could you believe that would actually support you? So you can take a client from, I'm too old to apply for this job, to, I have so much experience and transferable skills. Frankly, they'd be lucky to have me in the course of a single coaching conversation, without all of the bells and whistles, and staying very true to your pure coaching style if you are an ICF coach. So that's my definition of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or listen, language, patterns running in the head. 3 times a pattern. It's your job as a coach to detect those patterns, and then with practice, you will be able to gently challenge those beliefs in the course of a normal coaching conversation. Okay, that's me done for today. And I look forward to catching up with you again here on YouTube. Amazing.